Let's move on to something Marvel related because they never leave us without something to talk about. So Spider-Man Homecoming, just last week. And this, for some, is a spoiler, but I'm sorry, it's out there now. We have to talk about it. But last week, as soon as we wrapped Keeping It Real, The Wrap reported that, and spoiler warning, but it's too late. Zendaya is playing MJ, Mary Jane Watson, even though her character's name is Michelle. And then Vulture, I think, followed up and basically said, yeah, The Wrap just spoiled the big reveal at the end of the movie, is that her nickname is MJ. And so she starts off as kind of the frumpy girl. That's
the Joseph Gordon-Levitt Robin moment.
Yeah, yes. Exactly. So spoil that. But, you know, obviously the internet, being the internet, had some thoughts on Zendaya, who is not white, playing.
She needs to be a redhead.
You know, playing a character who's traditionally been, you know, a white redhead.
Did you see all the photos, though? Yeah. First of all, whatever. And second of all, did you see all the photos? But like a lot of the defense that people were saying were you had an amazing tweet that we need to talk about as well. But they were like, it's not that she's black, it's that she doesn't have red hair. People also said it was because she's black. But like then people just edited in Photoshopped what she would look like with red hair, and it looks amazing. Like she looks awesome like that.
Well, to those people who can't accept a black woman as Zendaya, or
a black woman as Zendaya,
black woman as MJ, or that she doesn't have red hair, you're gonna love this. You know who was black and had red hair? Malcolm X. So you're welcome.
But Eric, you will say your tweet.
I'll paraphrase myself, which was just my tweet was putting in quotes like an imaginary conversation that was like, hey, they're going to make Aunt May decades younger and way more attractive than the comics. Someone responding, cool. And then saying, oh, and Mary Jane isn't going to be white. And that person going, they're ruining it.
Except I imagine you just going, they're ruining it.
It just, yeah, to me, it's such a non-issue. It's so, and every time this happens, we get the same sort of debates and arguments. And I think people bringing up real, like, sort of bad analogies like, oh, I guess they can just cast a white person as Black Panther. No. Because that character, there's like important thing about them and their race. If you describe these characters, like what's important about Mary Jane? It's like her whiteness. That's absolutely, that's so important.
I'm so
her innate Aryan qualities.
Right.
I'm so sick of hearing the term blackwashing. That is not a thing. And when you take a comic book character who is, you know, like, okay, Black Panther is someone who is defined by the color of his skin. I'm so sick of seeing people in the comments being like, well, I guess they'll just have a white, like Martin Luther King. He is defined by the color of his skin. Mary Jane is not defined by the color of her skin. Like, Iron Man, whoever is in the suit is the person who's Iron Man. It's not like Tony Stark is white and that's what makes him special.
Although I think, I will say that there are certain characters like a Bruce Wayne or a Tony Stark, I think, and this actually speaks to when they cast Michael Clark Duncan as Kingpin. You know, there was a big backlash about that because it was a black Kingpin, but in a lot of ways, like, I thought he was great. Like, physically, you needed somebody, you know, the same thing like Vincent D'Onofrio. Like, physically, you have to kind of fit that bill. But one person did point out something interesting, which was the whole thing with Kingpin is that he's supposed to be kind of like Professor Moriarty, where you can't put your finger on him, and that he's just kind of behind the scenes. And it'd be very difficult for any wealthy black man in America, in New York City, especially at that time, to not have had, just by virtue of the status quo, having eyeballs on them.
I think it's a case-by-case basis. I actually had some interesting both arguments and more civil discussions on Twitter about this, because someone did go to the like, oh, can they just make you know, Captain America, you know, change everything about him? I go, no. I go, because if you did,
in the comics?
if you did, no, but I'm saying Steve Rogers. I mean, it's one thing to put another person in the costume. A million people want the costume. But if you were to say Steve Rogers, 1940, you know, America makes, you know,
is now a woman.
It's like that doesn't work for like what the story is and would change the story, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. The thing about Peter Parker and his classmates is in 1962, it was like, there are a bunch of, you know, high school kids, and I guess, you know, Mary Jane was introduced right after, but it's like a bunch of high school kid and his friends in Queens, you know, and this is just what they are. Well, in 1962, it was like, they're all white.
Yep.
In Queens now, that would not be the case.
And
it's
the movie reflects what Queens looks like now.
And none of those characters were written where, again, like their whiteness is important. Like there's nothing culturally about them, and there's nothing that changes by making them different races. So it's just like, to me, it's like, yeah, there's not like one answer for every character. And no, you can't just change every character's race.
And Flash Thompson is Indian.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter, you know. And so that's the thing is like there's so many characters where it doesn't matter. And the thing that I guess causes more of a ruckus is the fact that so many of the black superheroes, because they were very much, again, they're a product of their time too, so they were defined by their race. There's like the Hero of Harlem with Luke Cage, and the African Prince with Black Panther.
Or Wonder Woman, because, hey, there aren't that many female superheroes.
Or putting the word black in front of any superhero.
But here's a big example I often think about. I go, who it wouldn't matter in the scheme of like who they are to change their race is War Machine. And the reason that is because I can't remember the writer who came up with War Machine. All I know
Michelin? David Michelin?
Might have been.
Yeah.
All I know is John Byrne, when he drew him, just like, I'm going to draw him as a black guy. Like, because there was nothing in the description about the race. Yeah. And it shows in the character because he's probably one of the first black superheroes who wasn't defined by his race, And so, yeah, it's a case-by-case basis. But yeah, for anyone freaking about Mary Jane, again, it even speaks to weirdness of like, well, she's redhead, and like that's seen as an exotic thing because there's not as many redheaded people, but it's still
she can still be a redhead in the movie.
She can still be a redhead, guys. And
this has been going on for 20-something years. At a certain point, when will it stop being a big deal? Look, they recast Harvey Dent with Billy D. Williams in Batman 1989, and you know what? Didn't make a lick of difference.
No.
When I found out that Billy D. Williams, who I loved as Lando, was Harvey Dent, one of my favorite characters. I was like, oh, I
wish
didn't
there was
think of that.
Computer I could complain on.
My biggest thing was trying to. I used to draw a picture of like, well, he's got the mustache,
right?
So I can't picture. Is he going to just have half
that was
a
my
mustache?
biggest question.
I was like, what's going to happen with the mustache? I can't imagine Billy D. Williams without his mustache. And I'd see one movie of him without his mustache. I'm like, it just doesn't seem like Billy D. Williams without his mustache.
I think what's interesting too is the way, like, so I feel like a lot of people who are upset by this are upset because the version that they got attached to of a character and that they likely related to, because they're like, hey, look at this like blonde character who's the Flash, like blonde white character's the Flash. I'm a blonde white person, like I can see myself in them. They feel like that depiction that they related to is being taken away, but all that's happening is it's being given to other people who didn't have that. And like we can all share, we all love these things. It's fine.
Is anyone really bent out of shape that Perry White is no longer a white guy?
No.
He's no longer an angry white guy. No, he's just an angry black guy.
Isn't Barry Allen in the comics have blonde hair?
Yeah, that's what I was referencing. And oh God, he's a brunette in the
and no one cares.
Well, wait till they find out that he's Jewish in Justice League. It's going to be. Now we realize
he's a Christian. Everyone knows the Flash.
He's defined.
But we just look. This is something that people are going to have to. It is the new norm. I mean, look, we went through it. You guys cover a lot of TV stuff. You, Eric, almost exclusively, but like you went through it with the Flash with Iris, and now she's going to be black in the Flash movie as well. And so it is just this is just the new normal. And I think the lesson you take away is what are the things that define that character. And I think like a character like Batman, he is from an old WASP family. They built Gotham, everything. So in that way, him being a 25 to 45-year-old white dude makes sense because it is the idea of his legacy, everything that that empire. Is there really any reason why Clark Kent has to be white? No, but I mean he's a corn-fed Kansas boy, so I guess in some ways, he probably would be white, but it really no reason why people of Krypton had to be white. We're drawn that way.
Right.
So it is just one of those things that even though we've had how many like dozens of cases of this so far, like on TV, particularly in the last couple of years, it just doesn't seem to change. So Zendaya, to me, Mary Jane is. I don't think she's that interesting a character. Anyways, like I think she has some stories that were interesting, and I think it was Devin Faraci actually pointed out that the reveal of MJ and the comics in the old comics was kind of more of a surprise because there were the other girls at school and they found out that Aunt May had hooked up Peter with MJ, they were like, holy cow, look at her, she's stunning. And so they're probably doing that with Spider-Man Homecoming, I'm imagining, too, of like,
when she comes out of the homecoming dance and
yeah,
she's
it's the Cinderella moment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
she's all that moment.
She takes her glasses off.
Yeah.
She's like, Peter? Turns into Don't Breathe, which we'll talk about later. So yeah, we're curious. We want to hear. Oh, and also Stan Lee came out. It was like
In defense.
big deal. You know, like, you know,
Right.
you know,
I was doing my bad Stanley impression, doing the same joke about like, yeah, Mary Jane is white. When I thought of her, it was a white girl. It's like, no,
Yeah.
No,
it was
that's
the
not,
60s.
that's
That was
not
just like,
what he said.
that was the default.
And he
Yeah.
was like, from what I hear, she's a great actress. Oh, hey, maybe that's an important part of
I
this
wonder
too.
though. Yeah.
Maybe she should have good chemistry with Tom Holland.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
Which
exactly.
you definitely need
Those
to go.
dance videos.
Oh my God, the dance
They
videos.
look
The
like
dance
they're having
videos
a
are
blast
amazing.
in that movie, you know. And that's the thing. Like Spider-Man: Homecoming just looks like it. Just from what I saw at Comic-Con, it looks like it's going to be a really fun, really sweet school movie. And I do want to point out that I think you know, the footage that we saw there, they must have been like working around the clock though to get that out because they had only been filming a few weeks and they had like it was very polished everything. So hopefully sooner than later they will actually let someone see that stuff because it was really good. And you guys, I think this conversation about Zendaya, it'll be over once you start seeing more footage.
Yeah.
So we want to hear though what you folks think about all this casting. but
Politely.
politely, because I'm not kidding around here. Any really awful stuff is getting deleted, and we're banning you. So I'm not kidding.
And I am doing a moratorium on the can MLK be white then. You aren't allowed to say it anymore.
No.
Stop.
Yeah.
Stop saying it. He can't.
It's a terrible analogy.
Terrible analogy. Find a better one. Come back with that.